first of all, I just want to thank everyone who made the trip to New Orleans, who was able to spend that very valuable time with us, learning, networking, connecting, and growing. I know that many of you were with us, some of you were unable to be with us, and everyone here today, we're excited to share our top 10 takeaways from this year's Pride Development Institute. So, number 10, drum roll. Treat your, oh, is it coming? I'm not seeing. There we go. Treat your volunteers like donors and donors like volunteers. Literally, my talking points on this one were they are giving, our volunteers are giving us time, talent, and treasure. We cannot forget that they do not have to be there helping us, right? They are not staff. We have got to make sure that we are treating them like donors because first and foremost, they are a donor. And the relationships that we build with our volunteers are invaluable. Their time, talent, and treasure is invaluable to us. They are absolutely key to everything that we do as an organization, and our best practices fundraising model that we utilize is very, very volunteer focused. So the expression of gratitude on a continuous basis, recognition not only for them as donors but for them as volunteers, and that consistent engaged communication are so key. So the flip side of that, treat our donors like volunteers. Every donor that we have is a great prospective volunteer for us moving forward. Much of what we talked about and what we always preach is that we need to be continually looking to build and grow and expand our networks. I know many of you are at different places in your campaigns and in your projects and initiatives. And when you are treating your donors like volunteers already, it becomes very natural to say, hey, you're kind of already helping me. Do you want to be recognized for that as well? I've definitely had that happen a time or two where I'm like, wow, this person said no to serving on a committee, but they're like my best committee member without being on the committee. And so when you're able to sort of bring them along and say, hey, can we just recognize you for what you're doing? That becomes very powerful. So I think it's really important that we think of our volunteers like donors and our donors like volunteers. With that, I'll hand it over to Shauna for the next one.
I think Marty and I are both going to try to argue that each one of these is the best one, right? So number 9, practice asking for money before you ask for money. What a concept, right? A lot of times this can come as kind of a shocker because we're paid to ask for money. For the most part, most of us on the phone, we're paid to ask for money, so we should be really good at it. But there's so much that goes into it, each and every ask. Practice asking for money before you ask for money. So this could be said for really any amount. The same as we practice saying anything that might make us nervous as fundraisers, it's still important, excuse me, it's still important to follow that famous phrase of practice makes perfect. So I was remembering while we were talking through this, I was remembering a presentation that I once did for a major health system, and it was about 100 of their senior leaders. And it was a panel, and I knew the question that was being asked of me, but I wanted to deliver a really dynamite answer that I knew would leave an impact, right? And do you know what I did? Something that I do not usually do. I forced myself to practice it 20 times. Like I was driving over there, still practicing this answer that I was going to give. And do you know what happened from practicing that 20 times? I wasn't nervous. I knew what I was going to say. I didn't have to refer to my notes. I was confident. I was able to hold their attention. Each time I did it, it got better, right? And that's what the purpose of practice makes perfect is. Each time we do it, it gets better. We also want to encourage you that this doesn't apply to just you. Even if you are a fantastic, best in the business, which we know you all are, asker, the majority of the time there's going to be someone else with you. If you're making a big ask, especially, right? There's going to be a CEO with you, or there's going to be a volunteer with you, or something of that sort. And you know what they're probably not super comfortable with? Asking. So practice. Actually practice. Don't just say, hey, Marty, you're going to ask for money and I'm going to be the one that makes them feel really good. Practice it. What does it look like? What words do you use? And also, don't just practice the ask. We would challenge you to also practice the hard questions that you might get, like what if they say? Would encourage you to practice celebrating, because sometimes that's awkward for some of us. Like, what do we do when they say yes? How do we respond to that? And practice whichever part comes the hardest for you. We call this the eating the frog, right? If making the ask makes you nervous, then start with that. Practice that first. So I will now turn it over to Marty, who has the next best one.
Thank you, Shauna. Number 8, a grateful family program can not only raise more money, but it can help develop a culture of philanthropy. This is so important. I don't care what kind of organization you are, your grateful family, whether it is whatever constituents, the people who utilize your services, it is so important to connect with them. And that's really the design of the Grateful Family Program. But we cannot underestimate the impact that engaging our other employees, those who are serving our constituencies, have in being a part of the process. And by engaging them, by getting them to help you gather compliments, gather stories, and celebrating that and telling them good job, that is boosting morale, right? That is helping them to deliver better service. And it is engaging them in the philanthropy process. Oftentimes we say, fundraising is our job, but philanthropy is everyone's job. And if you do not have a strong culture of philanthropy and you are raising money in a silo, it is very, very difficult. You've got to have the support, the buy-in, the understanding of impact, and that all comes through a Grateful Family Program. When you are communicating regularly, why philanthropy and what does that mean to me as someone who serves our patients, clients, students on the front lines, right? What does that mean to me as a person who fundraising is not my job? What is philanthropy? Why is that important? Why should I care? Why? I've got so many other things to do. When you are able to get those people to understand that they are important and that it impacts their day to day to have a good, strong philanthropy program, that's where the magic happens. So it is so important not only to, develop a compliments policy, to train the staff throughout the organization what philanthropy is, why it's important, how that impacts them, how they can help, how they can feel really good about helping, doing things that they are already doing, right? We want to make sure that they are understanding that we are not asking them to take more time out of their already busy schedules. We are telling them, let's focus on some of the positive things and let's capitalize on those to make all of us better, right? They've built relationships with their clients, patients, students, whatever that looks like. And they can be that connection to build the relationship for them to do something that they already want to do. And we just lead them down that path. That's beautiful, right? So a Grateful Family program can not only help us raise more money, which ultimately at the end of the day, we know has to be our driving force, but it can help develop that culture of philanthropy, which again helps us raise more money, helps us do more good for the community and the world, right? What we're all here to do. So if you don't have a Grateful Family program, definitely consider implementation this coming year. And we do have an academy on Grateful Family coming up. I think it's in April in 2023. So definitely put that in the back of your head. All right, next one, Shauna.
Confirming that is in April. It's in Nashville, Marty, because Caitlin and I were just talking about that yesterday. And so this one, number 7, Marty did a fantastic job on that last one, but man alive, is this one not great too? Giving is not a burden. Our psychology compels us to join a tribe, right? So Jake gave a really powerful and impactful presentation on this at PDI that I know I will not do justice, but for me, it really all boils down to this, that we are not forcing people to give. We are not arm twisters. We are not the people that dread walking into a room because other people dread seeing us. Fundraising is not a bad word. It's not a dirty word. You've heard me say so many times, I consider us to be matchmakers, right? We are the tribe builders. We are in our roles to match people. We are in our roles to match human beings with hearts, beating hearts, and resources to our missions. So when I think about why I give to organizations, if we pull out all the other emotions, what it really boils down to is that I want to be included. We want to be included, right? We want to feel loved and worthy, and that their mission aligns with us. Their tribe is one that we want to align with, right? I think this is so important. Think about your tried and true volunteers. If you ask them why they are still involved, they would say it's because they feel like they're part of your family, right? They feel like they're part of your mission, right? Not because you have a great administrative fees policy, not because send a good impact report. They feel like they are part of your family, your tribe. That's why they're all in. So it's incredibly important for us to understand that not only for our donors and what they're looking for, but this is for our volunteers and why they partner for us. It's a psychology. Psychology compels, like forces us, shoves us through the door, right? Compels us to want to join a tribe. If we're really good at what we're doing, we are encouraging others to understand that when they are giving to us, they're part of the tribe. They're part of what we're doing. We couldn't do it without them. This is serious. We need them. They are welcome to be part of our tribe. Psychology compels them to give to us. Marty.
Thank you. Number 6, campaigns can be about programming, capital, and endowment. I'm going to start with the word campaign. Many people think of that as oh gosh, we're in campaign mode. That's a dirty word, right? Like, I'm actually working with several organizations right now that have just come off of a really great campaign, and they're used to, hey, we take a break in the middle. Like, we gotta pause here. We just had a campaign. We can't possibly continue on. When you look at campaigns as your ability to keep your team, who you have worked super hard to engage, to keep them engaged, mobilized to support you, and focused on your organization, and not get distracted with some other flavor of the month or some other organization who's out there vying for their attention. When we look at it as being in a campaign, a project, an initiative, right? We should always be in that mode. Okay. So when you know that you have the flexibility to have your campaign be about programming, capital, and endowment, it gives you that ability to structure your project in a way that aligns with your organizational strategic plan, but that also has a strong ability to connect with and compel people to want to be involved, to want to be a part of your tribe, because there is something sort of for everyone to connect with. So it empowers your volunteers to share their why in a way that's meaningful to them, right? It enables us to build our case for support around a multiple pillared project that gives tangible and understandable results. We define a need, a vision, and an impact in a way that helps us to move our our programs and projects forward. And we're able to touch all the boxes. Oftentimes people say, we don't have an endowment and we just can't possibly go there because we need cash now. But if you're able to package that with your programmatic support and your capital support, a lot of people say, hey, this is an organization who's planning for the future, right? We've been through crisis modes, y'all. It's not easy to say, hey, we should have prepared for this. We should have had an ability to have that revenue stream. So if you build an endowment into your project, then that gives people the ability to support both the here and the now and to invest in the future. So it's very, very appropriate in this day and age. It used to be that campaigns were about capital, and I get that. There's still a need for that, right? Your organization will still have programmatic needs, capital needs, and endowment needs. And so those that are finding success are finding it with a multi-pillared project that we can have program, capital, and endowment support a part of. It's the way to go, and it's definitely something that we can help you with. And we talked about it a lot at PDI. So campaigns can be about programming, capital, and endowment. Shauna, over to you.
Excellent, Marty. Thank you so much. So number 5, building a robust fundraising structure. Fundraising volunteer structure is worth the time investment. As you can imagine, I love this one as well. The reason why, we can only do so much, right? Whether our staff is big, our staff is really small, we can only do so much. I bet we would be hard pressed to find anyone on this call who doesn't feel as though they should be, could be, want to be, need to be doing more, but there just aren't enough hours in the day, right? Volunteers do more than stuff envelopes and mail invitations. They open doors, they make phone calls, they are excellent at lunching and dinnering, and they make asks, right? Our volunteers make asks. Think of them as your unpaid FTEs. Really, think of them as that. You know that as the Pride philosophy, deep in the fabric of who we are is the belief in the fundraising volunteer structure being the key to your success, right? If we cultivate them, if we steward them, if we recognize them as such, our volunteers, they can be more valuable sometimes than our normal FTEs. Is it okay to say that? Like, it's okay to say that. Sometimes they also, on the flip side, can be way more trouble. But they can be so valuable to you. We know that a friend asking a friend to support an organization they love is so much more powerful than a paid staff member asking someone that they've just met to give. They have a laundry list of pros. They have a few cons, and usually those cons can be turned into pros right away, right? Volunteer fundraising structures increase your ROI significantly done well. I would also challenge you that if you are sitting here listening to me say, that's a lot of work, I don't have time for that. You started out with this by saying, we don't have enough time. What I don't have time for is to manage volunteers. If you're saying that, that's the best indicator. You need volunteers. You need volunteers to be helping you, to be doing this alongside you, to be taking some of that weight off your shoulders. Done well, trained well, empowered well, volunteers are worth the investment of your time. Marty, take it away.
Thank you, Shauna. Number 4, great stewardship is much easier and cheaper than finding new donors. I'm going to start with the cheaper piece, y'all. We know that it's 6 to 7 times more expensive to acquire a new donor than it is to keep our existing donors. So why not focus on that? And by show of hands, how many of you would prefer to call a friend than call someone that you don't know, to make a cold call? Do we want to make cold calls, or do we want to call our friends? Those people we already have a relationship with, right? I bet there's not a single person on here that would rather make a cold call than to call someone you already know and already have a relationship with. Deepen those relationships. Make sure that your people feel appreciated. Utilize our 7 Touches program to proactively make meaningful touch points in creative ways that really focus on the donor, right? So that you're like me. And when people say, I can't believe you do fundraising, I'm like, I don't even think of it as fundraising. I think of it as I get to have all these new friends that I am doing very cool, fun, different things with. I'm sharing a vision and I'm leading them down a path to make a choice that they want to make anyway. The asking amount that we do is minimal compared to the stewardship amount that we do if we're doing it right? You should be stewarding your donors. Hopefully you're securing pledges. You don't know how to ask for 3 years. You just go ahead and thank them and make them feel really good and tell them about all the cool things that are happening, right? So it's so much easier to do the things that are fun and keep them engaged so that when that time comes, we just are making that next ask is it's a part of the process they expect to be asked. How many of you have had people ask you because you've done a good job stewarding, hey, is it time for me to make another gift? Like that happens, y'all. It's crazy, right? And you're like, holy cow, I should have asked sooner. But no, yes, it's time. Let's do this, right? So we want to make sure that we are doing great stewardship because it is a heck of a lot easier and cheaper than finding new donors. We got to do both, but man, we got to focus on that stewardship. Next one.
Excellent, Marty. Focus on the baby boomer population, both for cash and planned gifts. Again, each of these pieces that Marty and I are presenting were a full length presentation whenever we were together in New Orleans. And this one, again, is one that is just packed full of data. But what it boils down to is focus on the baby boomer population, both for cash and planned gifts. If we go back just a wee bit back to 3 or 4 or 5, we don't have enough time, right? We don't have enough time. So how do we decide who we're going to focus on? I've got news for you. You focus on the baby boomers. Why? Baby boomers are transferring. There is, like, I've found lots of different numbers here, but basically between 30 to 68 trillion. Have you ever seen those, fun activities that they do where they do like grains of rice to teach you how much a billion is? trillion, 68 trillion dollars. And they make up 43% of total US giving. 72% of baby boomers give, right? Okay. In terms of giving groups, we should call them the golden boomers. Like, holy moly, baby boomers are where it's at. Okay. What does this mean? It means they have cash on hand. It means that they are going to be more liquid. It means that they're storing up literal treasure chests of wealth and our ideal target audiences for planned giving, right? We need to be focused on this demographic. If you have the ability to focus your efforts, focus on handling the baby boomers really well. Get them engaged, have them be on your volunteer teams. They are looking for things to be involved in for the most part, be efficient with their time. Then worry about your millennials, okay? We are not saying do not focus on all of your other giving groups. We're not saying that. We're saying that where the money is going to come from in the meantime is the baby boomer. So do what you're doing, do it really well with them. Get them involved in your committees as chairs, as volunteers, utilize them, earn their love, and get your chunk of that $68 trillion. If you have to focus your time, focus on the baby boomer population, both for cash and for planned gifts. Marty?
Thank you. This next one, this is bold, y'all. Are you ready for it? A major gifts program is the only path to success. Success can be defined different ways, but we are fundraisers, and success means maximizing our financial resources back to the organization so that we can have the greatest impact in the world, right? So if we are defining our success by having a large enough goal to make a transformational impact in our communities and in the world, a major gifts program is the only path to success, right? So why is it then that we have such a difficult time focusing on this? If we are not blocking out time on our calendars, spending a disproportionate amount of time, I think we said 80% of our time should be focused on our major gifts program. We are getting at least, if not more, 80% of our revenue from major gifts. So we cannot ignore it. We've got to be practicing the asks. We've got to be making the asks. We've got to be stewarding. We've got to be prospecting. We've got to be researching. We've got to be doing all of the things, engaging our volunteers at this level, making sure that we are focused on major gifts, focused on those transformational opportunities. Or we will never, ever get to those big fundraising goals that we know that our communities need, our organizations need. That is where it's at. So If you do not already have a major gifts program, if you don't have signature gifts, naming opportunities, the opportunity for those people with the highest level of wealth to make a transformational impact on your organization, you are missing the boat. Make sure you focus on major gifts.
Drum roll. Rocket science, right? Rocket science. Just make the ask. Number one takeaway. I don't know that any of the rest of these were in order, in any necessary order, but I do feel as though this is number one. Just make the ask. So as a Pride team, we polled all of y'all, right? And we got a lot of responses, and we were building a family feud game that we played at the conference. If you weren't there, you missed out. It was terribly fun. You need to make sure that you're there next year, because we do fun things like family feud. And so our biggest surprise, I think, as a team at Pride Philanthropy, was the number one reason why we don't ask for money is because we're afraid to ask for money. And we're fundraisers. Like, yes, it was anonymous. We don't know which of you said that, but we're coming for you. But so here's the point. Number one takeaway from PDI, just make asks. Just do it, right? You're all here because you are either paid to make philanthropy power your mission, or you love the mission so much that you're here on a volunteer basis. Either way, make the ask. I encourage you, be honest with yourself. Why aren't you? Why is it the frog, which is, the one you don't want to do the most? Why is it the frog? Do you not have enough time? Are you scared? Are you unsure? Does it feel icky? Is that word terrifying? There is a team/tribe for that. Like there's an app for that. The Pride team, we got you. We can help with this, okay? We trust us no matter what your issue is. Be honest and say, hey, listen, I'm hung up on this. I can't get the words to come out of my mouth. Totally fine. You know what? We want to make you the best asker in the business, right? When you get practice up and you're prepared to ask, for most people, 4 and 5 actually, the idea of asking for money is terrifying. It's right up there with public speaking. However, just like public speaking, this is a statistic that we can change. What's the key to getting better at public speaking? Public speaking. You keep doing it, you keep doing it, you keep doing it, you keep doing it, it gets way easier. I know a lot of people on this phone call nodding their heads saying, yep, you're right, that does happen. It's terrifying, but it gets less terrifying. Same thing with ask. Just ask. You never know until you ask, right? What do we hear? What do we hear all the time in fundraising? You never know until you ask. Even more terrifying. Number one reason why people don't give? Because they're not asked. Let's address that. Let's address that. We will never run out of people to ask. What a glorious thing. Don't we want to be good at it? Don't we want to enjoy it? Because there are limitless people for us to ask for money to help propel our missions, right? So key phrase, just ask, ask, ask. Marty.
Thank you, Shauna. Wrapping it up right on time here. Just a few reminders. We have, next slide, is it coming? It's not advancing. That's okay. All right. Well, I believe there was something on there about our LinkedIn. I know we've got a lot going on with LinkedIn right now. And if you're not following us or friends with us or whatever the right terminology is on that, make sure you align with us somehow on LinkedIn, because we got lots of great content out there right now. I want to make sure that you're having access to that. You're probably getting some emails about it as well. We've got our upcoming forums and workshops. The next virtual forum will be on Friday, October 28th, 2 weeks from today. Key components to an effective gift acknowledgement letter. That will be a fun one. Avoiding burnout as a nonprofit employee is coming up after that. We do also have a workshop planned on December the 6th, how to keep your fundraising programs moving forward during times of uncertainty. I think we get this a lot. We get people saying, oh, but now's not the best time. And guess what? If we're not talking to people, if we're not staying connected with them during uncertain times, they're going to think that we're not authentic. So this should be a fun one. I'm excited to hopefully help empower you all, give you that continued confidence to do what those who did during the pandemic and kept going found success in doing, and just making sure we're pushing through any of the downturns so that when the time is right, we're the first person those people think of. So.